Alright, so I know I am hella late on this, but I finally finished JJK Season 2 because, as I said, I'm a filthy dub watcher.
You need to leave!
I just didn't really have the time to watch it subbed. I'm typically, preferably a sub watcher, but lately I've just been too busy doing YouTube and work and all the other stuff, so I finally finished it just now because I finally got the time for it, and I do have a lot of thoughts and opinions. I overall enjoyed this season, but I'm going to talk about the good and not really the bad, but the stuff I kind of found a little weird in it. So stick around. But before we get into it, make sure you guys like and subscribe because, as I said, I'm trying to hit 500. But YouTube seems like it's playing games with me, so I don't know. Maybe I'm hoping that I can hit 500 by the end of the month, but we'll see. But if you guys like my content, be sure to help a bro out, and let's get to it. Alright, so first thing I gotta get out the way, because I know everyone has been raving about this online, and with the ton of AMVs and music videos I've seen of this, it's pretty obvious. The animation in this season was absolutely immaculate, and it's kind of crazy, because as I've mentioned in my previous video where I was talking about JJK, the people over at Studio Mappa are working like, essentially like slaves. Anime. And it's kind of crazy that they're able to pump out such good animation with such a short period of time. So it makes me wonder if, given the time they need, how much better can they make it? Because this was really good compared to some of the other animes I've seen that had more time to work on their stuff. Not taking a dig at those, but you know, it's just still, this is visually stunning relative to any anime I've ever seen. Not the best I've ever seen, just to be clear, but just pretty good relative to some of the stuff I've seen lately. I think the closest, at least when it comes to mainstream animes that I've seen, has been Demon Slayer, the season 3, but this is still definitely within the top 10, at least in the last like 5 years. But anyway, some of the highlights of the animation and some of the best fights I've seen. I want to say, going from the top 3, I want to say Gojo versus Hanami and Jogo in the train fight, because I thought that was pretty solid. Number 2, I want to say is Toji versus Megami. I thought that was really good. I love the whole like rabbit scene and the strategies Toji had to come up with to fight a character significantly more powerful than him without summoning the number 1, which is Maharaga versus Sukuna, which that was just like a crazy fight in and of itself. At some point it turned into damn near abstract art. It was so crazy and visually stunning. Like, I know I've said visually stunning 100 times, but that was amazing. But honestly, every single fight in this season had so many great things to it that it's honestly kind of hard to even give it a top 3 or even top like 10.
It was perfect. Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details.
Because almost every single one hit on every single cylinder. So if my top like 3 is different from yours, I ain't mad at it. You can probably tell me what your top 3 are in the comments, but I don't think anyone's wrong, to be fair. But I'm not going to harp on how good the animation was for too long, because I'm pretty sure there's been like 100 YouTube videos talking about how well it is. So very obviously, it was great. And I think that's enough said on that. I don't know. Maybe if I have the time, I might make a video talking about how good the animation was and some of the good aspects and stuff they utilize to kind of make it pop that I wish that other studios kind of utilize a bit more. But that's not for here. I have a lot to go over when it comes about talking about the season. So on to my next point. The next thing I think that they absolutely nailed in this season is, without a doubt, the tone. I do like this dark tone that they've kind of put onto the anime, because rewatching a bit of season 1, it does have a little bit of dark undertones to it, but it's not as apparent as when you get to this season, because all those characters you got to know and love and really get to enjoy in the season 1, where you kind of had to pick your favorites, you see them go through some tough times here. We see characters get killed, maimed, brutally injured, sealed away, and it's kind of hard to watch, which I guess is kind of also a demerit to it, but I'll talk about that later. But it's very interesting to see these characters in kind of a hopeless situation and how well they handle it, because I don't think a lot of animes really tackle that well. As I said, Demon Slayer season 3 did a good job at that, but then I think the following season didn't really like capture that as well as the previous season. But this one did a great job. I'm hoping that season 3 has a solid follow-up. I have not read the manga at this part. This is the only arc I'm going in completely blind for. I wasn't familiar with Shibuya, and I'm not familiar with the arc that comes in after that, which is the Culling Games. I'm caught up on one of the biggest fights that's happening now. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Tone, absolutely immaculate. Something I was kind of looking forward to seeing, because other animes have tried to do dark tones and tried to do dark themes, but it doesn't really land as well because it's not always necessarily a dark show. And it's kind of hard to intersect when you have like really quirky jokes and things like that happening mid-battle. So I hope to kind of see that going forward. I really hope season 3 has that kind of similar tone and the seasons further after that with the nice animation. I think that will keep this anime at the top because I didn't hear people raving too much about season 1. Like I heard here, there, and same thing when I watched season 1. I thought I was like, this is okay. This is a pretty solid anime. But season 2 really blew it out the water for me. But that leads into the other thing that I think this show does really well, and I've already made a whole video on this, but I'm still going to touch on it quite a bit here. And again, that's the power scaling. I love seeing that their power scaling is pretty consistent. And we see that when it comes to strength, usually when strength is mentioned or when strength is a major aspect of a battle, it's very apparent that that matters. Like you can't have first year students going up against special grade curses and these high level curses and just making it out unscathed. Like it's kind of crazy to believe when you actually take a step back and look at other shows that actually happens quite a bit, where you see students essentially fighting criminals or opponents that are supposed to be significantly stronger than them, and these people haven't even mastered any of their abilities yet, and somehow they're able to fight against these guys who've honed their skills and honed their abilities for years prior. It's a little unbelievable, but I think that this show did a really good job, especially with the dark tone, really showing how hopeless of a battle this was for a lot of the heroes. And the next thing I'm going to talk about is definitely going to be the characters. Though I don't really remember every single character's name because I've just watched a lot of animes lately and I'm already bad at names. But I do like each one. I do like the special things that they have unique about them. Like each character doesn't feel the same as another one does. And they really show that. Like even with Yuji, he could be the typical shonen protagonist, but he has some different quirks about him. Like I know he has the typical savior complex that all these other anime heroes have, but I don't know, something about him feels different, like his stoicness and also his ability to learn that he needs to sometimes be a darker version of himself in order to save the day, I thought was very interesting and different, because we always see that no matter what, whenever we see shonen protagonists, they have to be the best person ever, they have to care about everything, and they have to do whatever it is that is required of them and somehow still maintain their humanity after it. And I like that Yuji can dip into the darks without completely losing his humanity. Now I know there's a couple other protagonists that are kind of similar, and I'm not really talking about those, but I'm mostly just talking about the ones that, at least that I've seen, I kind of see that as a similar trope, and it's probably the mostly because I watch a lot of mainstream animes. So that might be why, because I know Eren Yeager obviously can dip into the dark side, and let's just say he doesn't really lose his humanity, more like he just yeets it off a cliff, but you know, it's not that JJK is super unique, but I just found that was something unique that they did. And I just want to quickly add this right here because I forgot to add it when I initially did my audio recording, but the relationship between Yuji and Sukuna I think is also very well done. Just seeing Yuji go away for like 30 minutes and the amount of damage that Sukuna was capable of doing, and him coming to the realization that if he ever loses control again, like so many people will be hurt, was so unique, especially for that to be faced against with a shonen protagonist. Now, I want to talk about the things that I kind of necessarily didn't hate, but I found a little odd. And rewatching a little bit of season 1 kind of put a little bit more things into perspective for me. And it makes me understand why I have the feelings about these things that I have. Now, again, I don't necessarily want to make this seem like I'm hating or whatever. It's just me trying to be giving constructive criticism. Not that they can really fix it if this is an issue because they're going off the manga, but just to give people some insight on maybe why someone else might not like it. Now, the number one thing I have kind of a little bit of an issue with is that the story is a little complex to understand. There's a lot of moving parts and a lot of like 5D chess that's going on here, and so much setup and so many things that are kind of casually mentioned that don't really seem that important until it's brought up later. And after rewatching season 1, it kind of makes a little bit of a sense, because what I've noticed is that they give you the answer well before they give you the question. But because of the way the season is structured and how these seasons are so far apart, sometimes you might forget what the question was or what the answer was when you do see the question again. Like they'll answer something that's like really important to the story, but you don't know that it's important until it comes up way later. And as well as their power systems. As I said before, the power scaling is fine, like understanding that a grade 1 is weaker than a special grade makes a lot of sense. And, you know, as I said, it's shown it in the story. But when they try to explain curse energy, no matter how much I've like looked it up and read over it 1,000 times, it still doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. And I feel as if it's a little complex that people could just do anything. And because it's so complex, no one will really understand that it doesn't make sense. Now, this might make a lot more sense if you're actually watching the seasons back to back, or if you're reading the manga in like, sequential order, because everything is going to be, relative to how quickly you watch it. So it might make a lot more sense. But when you're watching it like on a season to season basis, especially like week to week, sometimes some of the details kind of get a little fuzzy. So it's kind of hard to remember like stuff about like the Zenin clan when they haven't been brought up in, for me, almost like a year and a half now. So when you open up to season 2 and you see Toji and you're kind of like, why is this guy important? And it's because all the stuff that they mentioned about the Zenin clan in season 1, which was like in the early episodes of season 1. So it's a little confusing when, at least for me watching, and I constantly have to find myself going back to YouTube videos and Wikipedias to kind of understand what's happening. And even then, I'm still a little confused. And the other thing I kind of want to talk about, especially with the first 2 episodes, I believe it was the first 2 episodes of season 2, was kind of the pacing with those as well. It was a little fast. Like, it was a really cool episode, and I loved the battle between Toji and Gojo, but I didn't really understand why it was happening and what the significance and the weight of that battle was. And it was a little weird because of how fast it happened, because it was only about like 2 episodes, that Gojo and Geto had created such an attachment to Tengen's next vessel in like an episode and a half, especially when it didn't really, only thing they really did was go to the beach. It was a little weird for me. And I figured it's probably going to be something that's going to come up much later, but because, as I said, they gave the answer before the question, I might not even know what the hell the question I needed to ask about that was until it's come up and I'm like, I have to now go back and see what the meaning of all that was for. Like, I know they heavily mentioned Tengen at the beginning of the season, and he's actually not really brought up again, or she, I'm not really sure what Tengen identifies as, but they're not really brought up again till the end of season 2, which was a little odd. The only thing I really got from those 2 episodes was Geto's motivation for why he wants to get rid of all cursed spirits, and Megami's background to his relation to Toji, and as well as the Zenin clan, and I guess a little bit of his relationship with the Zenin clan. And maybe those things will be answered later, but for right now, I'm a little bit confused as to what the significance of that is, because again, it's probably really important, and I just don't get it. And it could just be maybe that they couldn't fit all of the manga material in the story, or it could just be that, again, it's going to play into the story later. But because of the big gap between seasons, like I think it's going to be 3 years before the next season's shown, I might have forgotten what it is. And there's constantly episodes and I'm finished and I'm like, what the hell did I just watch? And I have to go to like look it up. And I know it's not a sentiment that only I alone share, because I've seen several like TikToks and YouTube videos where people have to actually explain what happened because it was so complex that a lot of people didn't put it together. And I don't know, maybe I'm just too smooth brained to put it together myself. So, if you want to talk smack about that I'm not smart enough to understand, I totally get it. But for me, that was just personally something I found a little odd, but just because I didn't understand it doesn't make it bad. And going back to the dark tone thing, as I said, I personally like the dark tone, but I can understand why some other people didn't like it, because you did see a lot of characters potentially get killed before their story even really gets taken off the ground. And it's is a little crappy, I guess, if like you were really invested in the character to see them die before they actually make it past like season 1 or season 2. I know with some of the characters, like Nobara, it does kind of suck to see that she was kind of set up to be one of the tertiary protagonists, but her story seems like it kind of ends right there in season 2, and it just ends really abruptly. And from what I've heard, I don't really know if she makes a reappearance in the manga or anime. I didn't really read this arc, but I've heard that she hasn't really shown back up again. So sorry if I spoiled that for you, but it doesn't see. I think that might be the hint of her story right there. But maybe she might make a surprise appearance. Who knows? And again, from what I've heard, I'm also not sure if Toto reappears, which is kind of odd, because in a world of reverse curse techniques and people being able to actually use it on other people, I'm surprised they couldn't heal his arms or fix his clapping technique, because I'm pretty sure a reverse curse technique can straight up repair someone's whole limbs if need be. And the only other complaint, or I guess thing I have to mention, was the final episode was really weird. I have no idea what I saw there. The last couple scenes, I was just like, why do we keep showing a black hole? What does this mean? What are we doing here? And then Yuta appears, which I don't know if a lot of people remember Yuta, because if you only watch the anime, he's brought up a lot, but it's kind of, you don't know why he's so significant. So until you watch maybe the movie, but I know a lot of people don't really watch anime movies because a lot of people think they're not canon, but now they're kind of making them canon, which is like a whole new weird thing. But anyway, you just brought up a lot in season 1, but it's really just some by the way stuff, and you're not really sure why he's so important. So when he appears at the end of season 2, it's kind of like, who the hell's this guy? Why is he so important again? And from what I know about him, at least the stuff that Gojo says, that he's second to Gojo, so he's gonna be really important, I think, going forward. But as I said, he's kind of just sort of slightly mentioned here or there. And for people who weren't paying attention, he might have been a bit of a surprise when he showed up. But overall, this is definitely going to be an anime I kind of take a bit more time and investment into, because it's not like one of those sit down, turn your brain off, and kind of just consume content kind of animes. This is one of those you really have to focus and lock in when you're watching this. And I do think I'm going to rewatch season 1 and 2 like consecutively to kind of see if I can get a better understanding of everything that's happened, and maybe I might come to a different consensus once I've watched everything in its totality again. But for right now, that's like the only real takeaway. Like, did it take away from my enjoyment? Hell no, I fucking love this. This was really great to watch, and I don't think that when I watch it again, seeing all the fights and stuff, it's gonna make it any less entertaining, because I've watched Sukuna versus Jogo like 100 times. I just love watching him kick him through that building. And I do have one kind of prediction that I wanted to make, and maybe I might make a full video on this, but again, I haven't read enough of the manga, so I don't know really how many theories I can make that's not gonna like contradict with the manga. But I feel as if Kenjaku is kind of doing what he did to Mahito, but to Yuji. That it seems like he's kind of grooming him to potentially be a powerful Sukuna vessel. And once Sukuna has been fully formed, I think that he wants to try to take over his body and have all the powers of Sukuna. That way no one could really rival him when it comes to his powers and abilities. But I'm not really sure about that. And from what I do see and know about what's happening currently in the manga, I'm not really sure how true that could be, but I'm just putting it out there just in case it happens. Then that way I can come and be like, yeah, I told you so on this video. But Kenjaku's playing like 5D chess, so honestly his plans are always complex and always way ahead of anyone's thought process, because it seems like he set everything in motion several thousands of years ago. So yeah, there's probably more to it that I'm not getting. But I think that's all I got to say on the series per se, or at least my likes and dislikes. And as a little bonus round, I'm just going to add some little funny things that I've noticed here or there. And that is, what the hell is up with Megumi? I know this is like a popular thing online, that Megumi would summon Maharaga for like the dumbest things. But now knowing what he was doing makes him seem mad unhinged. Because look at the villain he summoned Maharaga for. Compared to when he was fighting Toji, he was like, hey, let me go toe to toe with this guy. And he didn't think to summon Maharaga throughout that fight. Is kind of crazy. And next is the Kyoto High students. My god, bro, the fact that they are so trash that like they showed up and did no damage. Hold on, I had to stop for a moment because I was laughing so bad. But yeah, they did no damage to Geto / Kenjaku was hilarious. Like they pulled up after Mekamaru basically told them, no, you guys are ass, don't show up. And they showed up anyway. It just did like absolutely nothing. They just got cooked the whole fight. It was hilarious to see. Like the one girl, Kasumi, made a whole binding vow promising that she was gonna end Geto in one slash, and this motherfucker caught it. Like, what the hell? I honestly still can't believe that. I'm dying. And the last thing is when Mahito was going to go fight Toto and he was going in for the kill shot, and then the locket fell out of his pocket that had Yuji's picture right next to that pop stars. And Mahito was just so perplexed that he just had to stop and take a moment. That Toto was still able to get a clap off was absolutely crazy. That whole thing is gonna be permanently burned into my memory forever. That was hilarious. And I guess that's another point towards the anime, because usually whenever they try to inject comedy into a lot of animes, it kind of doesn't land as well, but that landed so perfect because it was still so in character for Toto, because he's such this big, menacing, like serious looking guy that the fact that he has a locket with Yuji's picture in it is just crazy and still believable at the same time. But anyway, I guess I should give this an overall rating, which I'm still gonna go, even with the minor complaints that I have, then I'm gonna give this a 9 out of 10. Possibly, if I'm gonna add like a decimal point to it, I'm gonna give it like a 9.5 out of 10. It was pretty good in all cylinders. The characters, Sukuna was amazing, Gojo was amazing, Toto was amazing. Every single one did such a great job, and it's kind of hard to say anything that I really want to take away from it. As I said, the only thing I really had a complaint with was it was just a little hard to understand. But that's like the overall theme. It's not going to force feed us the answers. We're going to have to kind of work for them. And as I said, I want to go back and rewatch it and actually work for those answers, because as I said, just because I don't understand it myself doesn't mean it's bad. And I think that when I actually do understand what's going on, I'm going to love it even more. But the fact that I can watch this, not understand it, and still love it is a testament to how good it was. Especially because season 1 didn't really pique my interest that much. So I was surprised when I saw so many people talking about this. I was like, this has to just be overhyped. But then I watch it and I'm like, no, this is actually pretty good. I really like this. And it was definitely good because people in my circle who don't really watch anime like that were all telling me about it. And I usually don't like when people hype things up for me. It rarely ever lives up to my expectations, but this definitely did. So let me know how you guys feel about season 2 down below. As I said, it might not have been for everybody. I definitely think it was for me. But, you know, I'm here to hear different opinions and different thoughts on what people thought about it, because just because I love it doesn't mean that everyone loves it. And just because I love it doesn't necessarily mean that you have the same opinions and thoughts that I do. So feel free to share them down below. But anyway, thanks again for the love and support, you guys, especially if you made it to the end of the video. Make sure to drop subscribe, because some of y'all might be watching and forgetting you're not subscribed. And as I said before in my last videos, if you guys have been watching, I have a lot of content coming for this month, so be sure to stick around. I do have a couple more JJK videos that I plan to do, and maybe if I kind of run out of ideas or if it's taking too long to come by, I might start talking about the manga and actually discussing things that's happening currently in the manga. But that's yet to be determined, so stick around for that. But if you also like Boruto and MHA, be sure to subscribe, because I have a lot of content coming out for that especially. But anyway, that's all I have to say for now, so stay safe, my ninjas, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.